What's good? What's good? What's good? We back on the Send It podcast doing our very first mock draft of the year, baby.
Yup,
It's gonna be a
yup.
standard one quarterback, regular league. We're gonna just do it. It's your boy Justin Henry, your boy Prabat Parmar. It's been a minute. P. What's
Man,
happening, dog?
it's been some time, man. You know we taking care of business, man. But you know what? Fantasy football season is taking off, and we got this mock draft. We're gonna do a few more. But tap in, man. Look at my pick specifically. Let me show you how to win a draft.
They gonna
You
show
know
you.
what I'm
That's gonna be
saying?
how to lose the 101 on how to lose a draft. They watch you. We're gonna be both be making picks and commentary along the way. We got our
Mm-hmm.
draft here starting in about 4 minutes. But one of the things, people, before we get into this is if you play fantasy football and you're watching right now, make sure you do mock drafts throughout the course of the offseason. It
Yeah.
gives you a chance to learn about player values, see who's spiking up, who's going down in value, and really just assess your draft strategy. Try a couple things out while you're in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things, P. And I know you know what I'm saying? That's a staple of like, I think why we're levels above everybody else that we compete with is because we prepare. And, it's kind of like you don't just walk into a draft without having gone through at least 10, 15 mock drafts minimum.
Yeah, that's true, man. I mean, mock drafts are essential because it lets you, it not only strategize, but like try different things out, man. I remember when I first started mocking way back when, I had specific players that I wanted to target based off of where they're falling in these mocks, right? So you could, do your research on players, fall in love with certain players, kind of get an idea of where they're going to fall. That way, you don't have to follow the trends of the draft and how the draft is going. You don't have to chase certain players
Mm,
because you know where your players are going to be generally, right?
facts.
So knowing what you know what I mean? And you want to get to how you know based off these mocks, man.
And it's crazy because ADP will change. So, like right now, people are mock drafting, but a lot of this is still built into last year's value. There's a lot of hype around certain players. So, I'm
Yeah.
assuming we'll see some rookies go really early. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. is already a top 10 receiver going in drafts right now, which is insane considering the
That
receivers
is.
that go after him. So, I think this,
Mm-hmm.
doing a mock draft, especially if you are here doing this live with us, this is an opportunity to go through and see where these values go. And then like I said, just assess that value over the offseason as people get injured, as things change, as the hype builds. There was a player last year that this happened with, Calvin Ridley, and he was in like the wide receiver 3 combo to start the offseason. By the
Mm-hmm.
time drafts got here, P, bro was the top 12 receiver. He was being drafted as a top 12 guy.
Yeah,
Insane.
yeah. Not by me, not by me. And you know what? Maybe it's a little bit of bad luck on his end. Because I was, he was cutting it up, especially towards the playoff runs and whatnot. But I mean, who knows, right? People fall off. But if you're targeting somebody in the top 12 of their position, you got to make sure that you rule out any like uncertainties or any question marks that they have. You know what I mean? Because you talk to anybody, they could be 17 players in the top 12 for
Yeah, if you
some people's
drafting that
rankings. You know
ceiling,
what I
like
mean?
you gotta make sure that you're drafting a player that can exceed the ceiling. And I think what Calvin Ridley and a lot of players do once the hype builds is you start drafting them at their ceiling, which I kind of think, unfortunately, that might be one Marvin Harrison Jr. this year, man. If we might be if he's a top 10 receiver by the time redraft is hitting in August, we talking about a player who we're drafting that ceiling, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
That's generally not what you want to do either.
nah,
You know what I'm
especially with them
saying?
rooks, man. But we're about to get into this draft. We got a minute 22 left. Shout out to everybody who's watching. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Make sure
Mhm.
you guys drop a comment. Let us know how you guys think about the mock draft that we do. The
All
league,
right.
the settings in this league, Superflex league. So this is a quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 1 flex, a tight end, and then a super flex position, which could either be quarterback, wide receiver, running back, or tight end. And we omitted defense and kicker in this one, thankfully.
Mm-hmm. All right, bro. All right.
You don't know who you're gonna take already, dog?
I mean, we switched it up here, but
There's
I
only a
got my
couple positions.
choices. There is, and I got my choices, and I'm gonna tell you like this. All right, this is how we're gonna rock.
C-Mac, huh? C-Mac, huh?
Yeah. Now
Oh,
I'm
C-Mac.
telling you, it was between C-Mac and CD Lamb. I was this close to taking CD Lamb, but I feel like the wide receiver pool right here, I just don't feel as confident and that there's that depth at the RB position. And I think getting C-Mac is going to give you an advantage, right?
Right.
And like I said, with me being on the ends, I feel a little bit more confident that I could still solidify my wide receiver positions.
Now
and
in
that's one of the benefits of
Superflex, a lot of people are probably watching this and they're like, yo, you took a running back in Superflex league and it's almost like viewed as a cardinal sin in most Superflex league. You have to take a quarterback in the first round. You need to take a quarterback with your first pick. What are your thoughts on it? I'll kind of piggyback on it, but what are your thoughts about that? Because there's a lot of, that's the narrative that's pushed out there is you have to take a quarterback with your first round pick.
Well, just let me ask you a yes or no question. Are you chasing quarterback in one QB leagues?
No, I'm not chasing quarterback at all.
Okay, so if you ain't chasing him in one QB leagues, why would you chase him in two QB leagues?
Is this a
right? Because it's still to me it's relative. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm gonna let them. Another thing that to keep in mind when comparing the points per game for positions, like a quarterback is gonna score more than a running back, right? Generally. But when you compare quarterbacks to quarterbacks, like your top 5 quarterbacks are probably going to be on average 3 or 4 points per game more so than the 10 to or than the 5 to like let's say 12, right? So if you're looking at it like that, and we're comparing quarterback to quarterback, your quarterback that you reach on in the first round versus my quarterback that I waited a few rounds to get, we're talking about a difference in 3 or 4 points. Whereas Christian McCaffrey, his points per game compared to if you're waiting on a running back can be anywhere between 7 and 12 points.
I see the difference, and I think a lot of people don't. What's gone, but the narrative that I don't like and I disagree with the most is that you have to do a certain action in order to justify being in that format. That's the one area I think is probably the most ill information that's out there. It's like you have to go get the top quarterback. I'm like, what happens if you can go in the 3rd round and get a Kirk Cousins and in the 5th round get a Jared Goff, and now you sitting pretty because you stacked up on that earlier talent, and how you mentioned the points per game now for your entire roster has been elevated because you have a Christian McCaffrey in one instead of having Aaron Jones in the 5th round. Like now your team is heavily stacked because you have quarterbacks that can manage. So I agree with you there. And that's the one part I just don't like. It's if there's value there, don't pass on the value.
And think about this. Last year, for example, like I won a lot of leagues because I did this strategy. I waited, and there's QBs that I wanted that I knew are better than their ADP. And those quarterbacks were Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott. How late were you getting those players?
Man.
And how late were you getting those players? And if you could get both of those players, both of them ended up being top 5 at their position. How stacked is the rest of your roster? What do you look at? Like that makes you neck and shoulders above your competition when you look at it like that. You know what I'm saying?
You made a really good point because I think everybody's going to point to like the Puka Nakuas. Oh, you can get a Puka Nakua. You can get a Kyron later in your drafts. You can get a Rashad White later in your drafts, right? But you can also do that with the quarterback position. We saw Jordan Love finish top 5 last year. We had, like you mentioned, Brock Purdy, I think, was a top 10 quarterback last year. We had CJ Stroud was a top 12 quarterback last year. So it's not like the quarterback position, we can't find value. We can't. You know what I'm saying? And so I think, and Jared Goff was going as like a mid-tier QB2 last year. He played well. I don't know, man. I think that you can find more value with the quarterback position and people want to let on that say you need to take one.
Yeah, I think it's way easier to find value at QB. Like, it's funny because in this draft, no QBs went.
Yeah. It's interesting, right?
That's crazy. So the
algorithm's adjusting. Yep.
Yeah.
Algorithm's adjusting. Like, wait.
I do think that Josh Allen is a value that in the 2 quarterback league, if you could get him in the end of the 2nd round,
Yeah.
That's hard to pass up. So I'm gonna do that there. And honestly, from a point like if you want hogs that are that are eating up fantasy points, take them regardless of the position. Josh Allen is a hog. Christian
Yeah.
McCaffrey is a hog. I just don't see any wide receivers right there that I can say are hogs.
Yeah.
So that's why I went with what I went.
I mean, you guys, there's still some hogs left in it. You know what I'm saying? There's some
I mean,
hogs left.
there's some hogs. I ain't gonna hold you.
You know, talk to me though. So you went McCaffrey. I'll let you make your pick.
Yeah.
I went chasing Diggs, and I think Diggs in the second round is going to be a tremendous value. I think he's actually going to slip to the third round in a lot of leagues. I'm still buying Diggs being the number one receiver on that team, and I think a lot of people are probably going to buy Nico Collins being the number one. Do you agree with that?
Nico Collins being the number one there. I don't agree with that. No. I mean, you got to think of it like this. Nico Collins, although he's dope, Diggs is who he is. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And a little fun fact, a lot of people already know, they restructured his deal, so he's on a prove it deal. And you know what happens with players on their prove it deals? They gotta show out. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to get paid that next deal. So, I think that there's a lot of room for both of them to eat. But I'm gonna say that Diggs is probably getting the most targets on that team.
I think you're right there, man. Talk to me, man. I just went back, Derrick Henry, Anthony Richardson. We talked about hogs and players that can win you weeks, man. And I feel like Anthony Richardson is going to be that kind of player this year. I have him in my top 5. Yeah, and you know what? To be honest, that might go up as we get closer to redraft season. So I really like the pick here. I chase upside in my drafts a lot of times. That's my goal, is to chase upside. And so when I look at players that have very nice floors, when you talk about a Diggs, Derrick Henry, Jamar Chase, just players consistently at the top 5 to 7 of their position, and then you chase the upside that comes along with some of these guys in new situations. For me, it's a no-brainer. I always go with nice, safe floor with tremendous upside here early in these rounds.
Okay. All right.
I noticed you took Travis Kelce kind of early, though, Brett.
I mean, this ain't a dynasty league, and it's if you're going to be putting money that he's supplanted as a number 1 tight end, I don't know. In dynasty, it's different.
Yeah.
All right. So
we also got 2 rookies off the board really early, in Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors went before Cooper Kupp, Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, like some really good names. And I'm not loving the situation there for the Giants. And then Marvin Harrison Marvin Harrison was the before Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, like really good talent here, man. These rookies, be careful with the rookies going a little too early in your drafts.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Malik. I don't know. Malik Neighbors. What are your thoughts on Malik Neighbors specifically in New York? I just feel like they've been trying at wide receiver for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like with so many picks, like these little shifty guys. Malik Neighbors, he's 6'1", but he's not like small or shifty. Talent is there, but one thing I look at is what quarterback are you attached to? That's a question mark. Supposed to be in a good offense. That's good. It's supposed to be a good offensive coordinator, but it's just a terrible team. And on top of that, you throw in the fact that the winters are crazy over there in New York.
Yeah,
I don't know. Malik Neighbors. I don't know.
I'm out on Malik Neighbors this year, and it has solely to do with Daniel Jones being the quarterback. Mm-hmm. I think if it's a different scenario, and the one thing about the Giants, they have all those like just obscure receivers. You're like, bro, are they on the team or are they not? You talk about like Darius Slayton, and I'd be like Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt, and even like guys like Darren Waller. There's just no standout receiver, and I think that offense is meant to spread the ball around to different playmakers. So I'm just kind of out on the Giants in general. Like their best running backs, Devin Singletary. I just don't see that offense moving a lot, and Malik Neighbors is going to struggle at times because there's really no other receiver to respect on that team if we keep it at 100. So he's going to draw the best coverage. I just think he's going to be a really inconsistent play this year in fantasy. When you got guys that are, I mean, you got Keenan Allen in the 5th round, going 2 rounds completely after Malik Neighbors. That's insane to me.
That's crazy.
You know, and then
But
Romeo
man,
O'Doon, same thing. Romeo O'Doon's, he's going to have to work his way into a credible role, like behind Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. You know, and so I think him being drafted ahead of some guys who are number ones on their team, to me, that's kind of wild as well. Like I would expect him to be going after like a George Pickens or even a T Higgins or like Terry McLaurin. Like those are names that I would expect 100% to be going before Rome Odunze.
Yeah, damn, it is ugly out here, bro. For wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't think it's as bad as it looks on the surface for receiver, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks because
if you didn't get like 3 of them by now,
yeah.
There's still a couple little sleepers out here, though.
There's a few sleepers, but that's probably who I should have got right there. Well,
you took D-Hop and you got D-Hop and Ridley. Yeah,
that's it's a little rough, but I will say this. There's a lot of upside in there when we're talking about quarterbacks going. Like one of the quarterbacks I would have been targeting in the late rounds is the dude from Washington, right? So,
Rome Odunze?
No, the quarterback from Washington.
Michael Penix
Jaden
Daniels.
No, my bad, not Washington.
I thought you meant Will Levis.
Will Levis, yeah. I think Will Levis is a sleeper, bro, big time.
I think there's a lot of sleepers outside of the top 20. I was just doing some rankings earlier today, and there's a lot of quarterbacks outside of the top 20 that I think have a chance to rebound in a nice way. Trevor Lawrence is at QB 16 right now. Baker Mayfield is still outside the top 20. Deshaun Watson is outside the top 20. Will Levis is outside the top 20. I think Bryce Young has a chance to play. I'm not going to say great or anything, but better than he did last year. So I think there's a lot of names that still have a chance to play pretty decent this upcoming season at quarterback.
Yeah. And I think everybody's down on you see Justin Herbert's rated way down here, but everybody's down on Trevor Lawrence, and I think there's a lot of talent, a lot of meat left on the bone over there with Trevor Lawrence.
You ain't even got 3 receivers though, bro.
I don't, but I'm gonna tell you like this here. I gotta grab my sleepers, bro. I gotta grab my sleepers. I gotta grab my sleepers.
Any more rounds after this? I did not do these positions right.
Yeah,
there ain't no way I did these positions right because
we only did 9.
Yeah. Oh, I have my flex already filled up. No, there's no way I did these right. We only did 9 rounds, bruh. I didn't get a tight end. Oh, I like to pick Keon Coleman and J-Mo.
Hell yeah.
I see you, dog. I see you, big dog.
Yeah, J-Mo, a big sleeper of mine, man. He's got the draft equity. He's got the speed, the talent. They're invested in him. He's a late bloomer, tied to a good quarterback. There's consistency in that system. And he started taking off in the playoffs. He scored 2 touchdowns against the Nines.
Yeah.
I think they're in for something big. And the coach is talking him up already, talking about, he may be a slow bloomer, but there's definitely a spot for him in the offense. Yeah, I think he's on a lot of people's radars.
Yeah, the thing is, he's just got to get those receptions up. We know, St. Brown and Laporta are going to be target hogs in that offense. So he's got to earn a role in there. And they're talking up Gibbs this offseason too, saying they're going to get him more work. A lot of talk with the Lions, man. There's only one football though. They just paid their guy $200 million, $212 million for 4 years. So much for being a castaway from Sean McVay, huh?
Yeah, bro. I mean, talk about, bro. There was a graphic, and I don't know if I could pull this up or not, but there was a graphic that was showing the stats between Stafford and Goff since the time of their trade, and I'm talking about these are dead even graphics, bro. They're dead even stats. It looks like it's a pretty even trade. I mean, you got to give it to the Rams because they won a ship. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I mean, if it wasn't for like the personal problems between Goff and his coach. They probably wouldn't want to shift. I don't know. I don't
I
know if
mean,
they
if it
would have
was
to, bro.
if we keeping it so G, if it wasn't for a dropped interception, we probably not talking about Stafford having a championship right now. We gonna keep it real on the channel. We keep it real on this channel. That's really what happened. But
Hey man, the taste of my mouth is tart. No Diddy, no Diddy, no Diddy. Oh my God, Diddy.
you had time to think
Oh.
about that one, dog. I was like, hold on. You double
Hey, I
back
thought
on
I had a bar. Oh man, but no.
yo. This draft, man, I see a lot of blue on this board, which means a lot of receivers are going, especially early. And you look at some of the names, like the reason why I think people are there's gonna be a lot of value at the running back position. You even see guys like Javonte Williams. I know Nick Chubb. We don't know where he's at in his recovery process. Zamir White's a name that's like starting caliber running backs going really late around the place where your receivers, your Hollywood Browns and your Jaden Reeds and like your wide receiver 35 to 40s are going. So incredible value, I think, on the running back position throughout drafts. It'll be interesting to see how things play out as we get closer to the season, man.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you look just in the first round, you got 8 receivers that went just in
It
the
used to
first
be
round alone.
RB every draft. It used to
Yeah,
be RB.
ain't that crazy? Everybody's like, they had terms for it, man. They had 0 RB, hero RB, heavy RB. Now it's like, bro, 2-3 years ago, man. You know what I mean? That shift has shifted. You know what I'm
But
saying?
they always say where there's a shift, you got to be able to pivot yourself. And
Yeah.
so
Where
I'm
people
looking at
zig, you got to zag.
kind of looked at your pivot right there. You were like, all right, I'm gonna avoid wide receivers. And I think this is a big key to doing mock drafts is knowing when you need to start, when you need to start addressing a certain position. Cause I know you, P. I feel like you probably got caught a little bit too late going on those receivers.
Yeah, bruh. Because I just didn't see the value. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't see the value there. Like, I didn't want my first wide receiver to be Olave, and I'm not too high on DJ Moore. Mike Evans, yeah, I get that. But am I gonna pick Mike Evans over Josh Allen in a super flex league? Nah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, but
no.
that Kelsey pick was the one that did you.
The Kelsey pick, you think
Yeah.
so?
Yeah, you just reached on Kelsey a little too early because you could have came back later you could have got Pitts, you could have got Kittle later, 3 rounds
Yeah,
later.
McBride. Yeah, and yeah. I mean,
I
I could
mean,
see that.
but I kind of feel the same way like about my draft. I was like, I really like where I got everybody, but I wish with my setup I would have gotten instead of mixing right there with knowing what running backs went later. I wish I would have got another receiver there. I wish I would have got like Amari Cooper or George Pickens, maybe even like a T. Higgins. I didn't want to do the Higgins and Chase stack, so I wish I would have got another receiver there. I'd have felt a lot better about my team. But that's why you mock.
That's why you mock. Talk to me about Williams there for Denver. How you feel on him?
So I think this team, man, is obviously embracing the youth movement. Probably gonna have Bo Nix in there at some point earlier in the year, week 4 to 6, somewhere in that range. If he's not starting out the gate, what do you
Yeah.
do when you have a rookie quarterback or even a quarterback who's not as good? You run the rock.
You lean on the run.
This
Yeah.
team, how many running backs did they take in the draft in the top 3 rounds? They didn't address the position
None.
in the top 3 to 4 rounds, which
Yeah.
means Javonte's their guy. What do we say about running backs? How long does it take them to come off of their ACL? It takes us 2 seasons. So I think Javonte Williams is going to be one of the probably better buy low candidates this entire year because as a pass catcher, they'll need him. And he to be more of his second round form than he was 2 years ago, as opposed to what he looked like last year. And in the second half of last year, he actually got way more involved and looked better. So I'm kind of buying a Javonte Williams bounce back, especially if we can get him like after Tony Pollard and Raheem Mostert. Let's do it.
Yeah. 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 I mean, a lot of good things about that, but also it's a double-edged sword when you got a rookie quarterback because they're stacking 8-9 in the box and daring you to beat them. You know what I'm saying? So,
That's true too.
but I do like, but I mean, right there in the 8, that's a lot of value. You can't pass that up. Somebody who is probably going to see the ball, get 18 touches a game around there, 17, 18 touches a game. That's not bad value at all. So I actually like your team.
Strategy wise, you did something that a lot of people also call a cardinal sin. You took Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins. You took 2 receivers from the same team. How do you feel
Yeah.
about that? There's mixed reviews on doing that.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't like it, but when we're talking about value, that's who was there. You know, when I was thinking about taking D Hop, I didn't want to take it. Time was ticking down. You know, had me nervous. I was actually wanting to go Christian Watson right there.
Yeah,
So if I
I think you
could
did
make a
better.
change, you think, and this is another thing I'm thinking about, right? Because if you think way back in the day, and we're gonna go way back here in the history books, my first league with y'all, way back in what, '06, '07, something like that. I had Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden on my championship
Of
team.
course you
So
did. Wearing
if
that
they're
number,
gonna
yeah.
eat, they're gonna eat, bruh. And they got the OC over there as the head coach, the OC from Cincy, and you know he
Yep.
gets both wide receivers involved. So I mean, it may be a watered down version of T. Higgins and Chase. You know, extremely watered down, but there's a lot to like over there. You know, they invested in the O line. You know, you got Will Levis who has a live arm, maybe not as accurate, but both of these guys can do a lot, or at least you know, D Hop can do a lot with a wide catch radius. And you know, last year you seen Calvin Ridley killing it in the touchdown target numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, it could work. It could
You just got to
work.
think if Will Levis makes any kind of improvement, you're getting one of those guys getting to be in the wide receiver one, and there's a better chance that they're both going to probably put up wide receiver two-ish type numbers. At least one of them is doing that every single week. So you
Yeah.
get that same value that you probably were chasing with like a Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, or maybe a Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins. And maybe it's a little bit, you're not getting that production, but you get a hint of that now in the what, sixth and seventh round. I think if you're passing on talent just because they're on the same team in a PPR league, it's not the
Yeah.
business. Like PPR league, you can get value with a guy that gets 6 catches for 70 yards, and then the other player is getting 4 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. And it doesn't even have to be a crazy day. You're still getting value. So I actually don't mind 2 receivers on the same team the same way that other people do. But overall, I think if I had to rate your draft, I give this a 7 out of 10. This wasn't one of your stronger drafts.
Okay. I mean, position wise, right? Outside of wide receiver, right? I feel like I'm extremely strong.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, to be
I
honest,
think
this isn't one of my best. Yeah.
you would need JMO. If JMO or Keon hit, you probably win the league. If one of those guys hits for like wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2 value, you kill
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
I just think you're hinging a lot on those two being good, which I don't think it's a bad move.
Yeah.
So
And I gotta see, like, we gotta see what's up with these settings, because if you look at Team 10, you
yeah,
know, they just went crazy wide receiver. You look at Team 8, crazy wide, Team 7. Damn, bro. Like,
this is our preseason, bro. This is our preseason
yeah,
draft. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. This,
We gotta
yeah,
get
we
it
got,
out.
yeah,
But this is
mock draft
why.
one in the books, but
This is why you mock draft, and this is why you don't make your first draft your mock draft ever.
yeah,
All right. So when you're ready in August, don't make sure you've already done mock drafts before then. But anything else you
hmm.
got on that, P, before we get off?
Hey man, this is the first of many. You know, tap in. You're gonna see these things evolve. We're gonna do different draft spots, different settings, and maybe include some listeners. So, you know, tap in. You want to draft with us? Draft with some real ones. Learn how to win your league.
Real
Lock
ones.
in, baby. Lock in.
All
You know
right,
what I'm saying?
Crody. I'll catch you on the next one. Hey, it's been real. Send it to podcast. Our first mock draft. We out.
Yep.